Hey guys and gals, it's Mike White. So today I'm going to show you how to do a background removal using Photopea. So Photopea is completely free and it's available online, and I just saw this. I guess you can install it. I've just always used it in my browser. And there's, some annoying things, like we've got these ads running over here and they can be distracting, but you can just choose to ignore them. So basically you start out by just opening a file from your computer. And I'm going to do a lot of talking about theory in this video. And so, we're not going to just go straight after it. I want to make sure that I explain what we're trying to do and why this is a good technique and why other techniques are maybe they're not bad techniques, but they're not the best techniques. So the first thing you want to do when you approach background removal, this is a file that I have to remove a background from. I just got from a client, and the first thing you want to think about is what part of the background do you want to remove? Like, how deep do you want to go with this? And there's so many different ways to approach things, and I'm going to try to show you several different ways, because not all things are going to work for all images, so you're gonna have to approach each task. You're an artist. That's what you are when you're at this point. You're a graphic designer or an artist, and you need to approach these projects from an art standpoint. So Photopea is a lot like Photoshop. So if you have any Photoshop experience, everything's going to be very familiar to you. And the other thing that's nice about it is that if you're using it, it works a lot like Photoshop. So if you're planning to upgrade to Photoshop one day, this is a good starter tool. It's going to teach you the right methodologies. You'll start learning the right shortcuts. It's pretty nice. So the first thing I want to do is extend my canvas. I just want some working room. I don't like white space on my final images. It's a waste. But I'd like to just get myself some more room so that I can see my edges better and just feel more comfortable. I feel crammed. So I'm just going to check relative, and I'm going to give myself 50 pixels and just hit OK. So I've just got a little bit of space. And when you're removing backgrounds, sometimes it's easier to take away rather than to trace around. And I wish somebody had told me that many years ago, because it would have saved me a lot of time. And I think we've got several different tools we can test. And I'm more familiar with Photoshop, so some of this I'm learning too. But one of them is like this magic wand tool. So this is the magic wand, and I'm just going to click, and it's going to select around this outside. So this kind of brings up the first thing that I talked about, which is deciding what part of the white that you want to remove. One of the problems with these magic background erasers that are out there, and remove.bg and all these different applications, I sound like an old man talking that way. The problem that I see with them is that they're not selective. They literally just chop out all the whites. And oftentimes they lose artwork. It loses the parts that you wanted to keep too. With this image, I don't want to take out like this light color right here, down here in the bottom right corner. We've got these squigglies. I probably want to keep that white in those squigglies, or at least I want to be consistent and either consistently keep the white or take it all away every single time, or consistently keep it. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. I just want consistency. I want control. That's what it is. I want control over my artwork. So looking at this image right here, do I want to take that away? And if I take that away, am I also going to try to take it out of these little tiny spots? The image, this is a smaller image, and so, you're kind of faced with challenges trying to do that with these little images. And that's another thing you have to understand, is how big is my image. And you saw earlier, My image is only 966 by 1039. So it's good to print, 3 inches wide, by little, 3.5 inches tall, something like that. So, let's just learn the magic wand tool. So enough theory. So we've got the tool, we click, we select, we see what it's selected. We're going to click over here. We're going to try shift clicking. So I held shift and clicked, and that seemed to work. Let's see what happens if I hadn't done that. Let's Control D to deselect. Control D. You want to get in the habit of keeping your hands on the one hand on the keyboard, one hand on the mouse, and your left hand. I'm right-handed, so I use my left hand for the control key. I kind of have my pinky finger always ready to hit it, and then the other keys, I'm going to grab with my pointer or whatever other finger is handy. So it's kind of like, that's how you fly the spaceship when you're doing graphic design, is you've got your hand on the mouse, hand on the keyboard. So if we just click without shift, it doesn't continue the selection. So shift and click continues the selection, and selects more. All right, so let's just hit delete. And it seems, at first glance that's done a pretty good job. I mean, I would say that's better than most of the background removers out there. And the thing that's better about it for me, and I'm talking about the automatic background removers, what's better about it for me is I was able to keep the white where I wanted to keep it. So whenever I try to decide if I've done a good job, oops, sorry about that. I tried a Photoshop keyboard for a new layer and it did not work. So whenever I try to find out if I've done a good job, actually that's it, Shift Control N. So what's wrong? Let me try that one more time. Yeah, that's not working. That key, that might be a little buggy in Photopea. You might get different results because this browser uses, I'm using Chrome and it uses Shift Control N, so that doesn't work. But the way you evaluate your background removal is you've got to put it on black. So what we're looking for here is the paint bucket tool. And I'm sure it exists. I should have found it. Well, there's the gradient tool, and there's the paint bucket tool hiding behind it. So I just created a new layer, and I'm just going to paint on that layer. So let me make sure that's selected, and then I'm going to drop my paint. And what's that done? What that has done is that's painted everywhere on the background. So now when I turn this eyeball on this layer again, I'm gonna hit Control D because no, I don't have a selection. When I turn this on, you can see that my background removal is not that great. In fact, it's really bad in my estimation. I mean, we've got all this white. So if we went to print this, on a DTF transfer, we would be actually, printing that white, and it's just not. I mean, that's not what I want. I want to see just the black. I don't need that edge. It looks unprofessional. So what automatic background removers do to fix this is what they do is they actually just kind of fuzz the edge a little bit. So they'll just fuzz it out there so that it looks like it's gone, but it's not really gone. And that's part of the problem with automatic background removal. It's like that fuzzy edge now just tricks the user, my customers, into thinking that they've done a good job and that the background's gone and everything looks good. But it doesn't. And when I print this for them, they're going to be unhappy and think that maybe my printer is poor quality. And the problem is that they're looking at it either against transparency where you can't see that, or let's just do a new layer the old-fashioned way with the menu, and we'll flip to our white. Flip. Okay, there's the little flip control. And then we'll find our paint bucket tool again, and we'll paint white. So if they're looking at it on a white screen, which happens a lot when you're looking at it on your phone or when you're looking at it just, anywhere. You don't see that edge. You don't know that's there. And so I can't see it very well with the alpha checker background, and I can't see it on white. So I've got to paint some black. If I'm taking something off white, I want to put it on black to see, how good of a job I've done. If I'm taking something off black, I want to put it against white to see how good of a job I've done. So how can we get a better selection? So we're just going to keep our black on, and I'm going to select this layer, and I'm just going to go ahead and select again. And now, because we've cut around that, we can tell the way the magic wand operates. It kind of tells you if you've done a good job in some areas or not, because if we had some little like squiggly stuff in the middle here, or if there was still like a faint edge of that original white background before we expanded it, we would be seeing that now. The magic wand would be selecting it, and it would kind of highlight that for us. So let's just see if we can change our selection. We're just going to go to select, modify, contract. Well, okay, excuse me. We're going to actually need to expand. When you're making a selection, it's important to realize what's happening here. Like, I selected here, I've selected everything to the outer edges of the document and around my drawing. So, what I want to do probably is just select the inverse. And now what that's done is it's selected, the inside part of the drawing. And this actually might remove that white edge for us. I mean, you never know. So I'm experimenting with this program too. So I'm just going to hit Control X and then Control Shift V. Yes, we want to allow that. All right. It asked me if Photopea wanted to have access to the clipboard, and we'll just see. I thought it was going to actually paste it on a new layer, so I did that wrong. So let me go back, and I'm going to Control Z that change, and then we'll do Layer, New Layer, and then I'm going to hit Control Shift V. So again, not super familiar with Photopea, and what normally you do in Photoshop is you hit Control Shift and V to paste. And what that is that's paste, but it's paste in place. And this application, I don't see paste in place in the menu. So let's just test it real quick. Sorry, I'm learning and letting you all be my guinea pigs with me. So I'm going to hit Control Shift I. Nope. All right, keyboard cards are not working for me. Select inverse. And then I'm going to hit Control X, and then I'm just going to hit Control V. And see, that is not pasting anything for me. Okay, so Control V is paste in place. So in Photoshop, it matters where your mouse is when you paste. And if you want to paste in place, you hit Control Shift V. It looks like in Photopea, you just do Control V. All right. So the next thing is, that didn't fix our selection. Like, that didn't give us what I wanted. So I'm going to select inverse, and I'm going to select modify and contract. And we're just going to contract by 1 pixel. And so that should bring that selection in all the way around. And now we're going to select the inverse of that. So now we've flipped it back outside. We contracted inside, and we probably didn't need that step, but we could have expanded. And then when I hit delete on my keyboard, and now we've got a much cleaner outline. So if we turn our black off, we turn our black on, I don't hardly see any. I mean, there's a little bit down here. And so what you could do is you could contract 1 more pixel. Let's do that. Select, modify. We'll just expand. We'll push inward rather than doing the double flip. And then we're going to hit delete again. And if you delete the wrong way, if you're inverted on your selection and you hit delete, don't panic. Just hit Control Z and undo it. All right, so now we'll hit Control D to deselect. And now it looks perfectly clear. Now the problem, though, is we've kind of taken away that outer edge. You know, we've lost this outer edge. So let's try to put that back. And this is kind of why every single image is different to work with. You know, if you're using a, you know, it just depends. I mean, in this case, we have this black background, this black outer stroke that was already on the original to work with, so we can kind of like, you know, solve our problems. So now, you know, I've got the, oh, here's my effects. Okay, cool. So now I've got that stroke on there, and the stroke has pushed it back out and even made it thicker than before. So now I'm in control of it, you know. So if I want to take this down to like 2 pixels, that is really tight, really touchy. Let's just type 2. That's probably closer to our original. But then this is where the art comes in, you know. What do you want? I mean, I liked the thicker one. And I'm not going to go 4. I think that's too much. I'm just going to be picky and stick with that 3. That looks good. All right, so now, you know, we've got a clean background remover, you know, background removed. And we've added back the black stroke so that we've got, you know, back to our original. Now, if we want to get in here and get these individual areas, we absolutely can do that. So there's another way to do this. This is, I think this is done. There's no reason to worry about another way for this application, for this image. But I just want to show you another way. So let's imagine this white is our background. And I'm just going to edit this. Imagine it's still connected. It's not, because we've got these layers going. So I'm using Control plus to zoom in. And I'm just coming up to the top. And in the beginning I said that it's sometimes better to take away than it is to trace around. And one of the reasons is if you're taking away, then you can actually get in really tight and just cut away from your design rather than, you know, tracing directly around. So this is the magnetic lasso tool, and that's one of my most favorite tools in any you know, photo editing application. I use it in Photoshop all the time. And what it does is it just tries to follow whatever edges it's close to. And see how it's just literally going right around, and it's like we're tracing the object. And it's, you know, I always say it's a perfect blend of man and machine, or woman and machine, or whatever you are, a machine, because it lets you, you know, trace around the object, and then, you know, it's thinking, it's trying, it's not thinking, computers don't think. It's trying to find those edges for you, and it's trying to imagine what you're wanting to do, and it's kind of like it's sucking itself to the closest edge, or the biggest change. And we have a really strong change here because we have black and whites, and so we're just going to follow that. Oh, and see it just jump to the other side, and that's when the magnetic lasso tool goes bad. Like, that was a mistake. And my poor, carefully done selection has just screwed up. So let's try to save it, though. So I'm just going to go straight up to the top, and I'm going to click. And when you click, it kind of forces it to listen to you. And I'm just clicking along. So I'm just going straight up to the top. This is the cutaway thing. And then we're going to come back down here and connect it. And now we have our selection. So how can we get rid of a selection? So in Photoshop, you hit Alt, I think, to add. Nope, Alt subtracts. So This is the lasso tool, just the regular lasso, and I can just draw a selection. I'm going to Control Z that because I don't want to lose what I had. I can hold Shift and add to the selection. I can add to it here. And then I can use Alt to take away from the selection. So we just calmly finished our selection on our magnetic lasso tool, and then we just can cut away the parts we don't want. But in this case, I really want to go all the way to the edge. So I'm gonna go up and just make sure that I'm outside. It's really cool that it lets you go outside, and then just come back in and connect that. And now I know that I've connected all the way to the outer edge. And then I'm just going to hit delete. And you can see that's a way to, chop away. So like we could use that lasso tool and we could go inside and say, let's get rid of this. You have to hold your breath while you're doing this. It's the only way it works. And then we could delete that. Oh, I'm deleting it and I'm like shocked. I'm trying to delete this. That's still part of our original object. So I need to delete that. I need to select that layer. And you can see what it's done. It's actually filled the stroke in. So I'm going to turn my stroke back off while I'm working with this. And I'm actually going to go in tighter because the lasso was attaching to the stroke. So if I'm going to try to take something away from this layer, and it definitely is having trouble like kind of doubling back on itself there. So I'm just going to click to like force it. And we're zoomed in, and it's a pretty small image. And that's something else. You know, the better image that you have, the bigger the image is. And I'm talking original quality. Like, you don't scale images without redrawing them in some way. You've got to redraw images. You can't just scale them and expect to get something better. But you know, the bigger the image is, the easier it is to trace and to make these kinds of adjustments. All right, well, I think that's all. I mean, I just wanted to make sure I showed you that. I mean, obviously you want to save this off as like a PNG and make sure to preserve the transparency if there's a checkbox for that. But I think that shows you how to get started making professional background removals. Thanks for watching.